All right, so we're gonna head on to part two of our podcast here, and we're gonna be talking about the Masters of Freestyle because really that was the main event for the longest time, and then racing kind of got incorporated into
Yeah.
the F3 Expo kind of to draw more people. But you can tell they spent a lot of money and a lot of effort in the into the Masters of Freestyle, and Ivan. He was a lucky man, and he also has a very tough job in which he was actually a judge there. So why don't you tell us how you actually got picked as a judge for the Masters of Freestyle?
Well, I mean, really, it comes down to the interviews I did for Drill Nationals. They got a lot of good publicity from them. They said that my interviews drew a lot of attention, a lot of positive attention. So they wanted to capitalize on that. And that's why I was there. Besides, I'm very passionate about this hobby. I'm passionate about everything I do. So I put 110% into everything and even my enthusiasm. So that's the big deal. I love laughing. I think this these hobbies have so far to go in the future that watching people advance and do stuff that's never been heard of, of seen before, um, is so enlightening because I've been trying to do some of these things. Some of these things, you sit at home and you try to do, and you just can't conceive until you're sitting next to the guy and you look over and you go, "Oh, that's not that hard. That was that was easy. Oh, I get it."
Little
And
mentoring
so
goes a long way.
yeah, and a lot of those guys, Chad and Steele and all those guys, if you approach them if you approach them, they all are very approachable guys. They all like talking, you can fly and talk with them at the same time. That's one of the things I always tell people. If you really believe you're really well at something, do it while talking.
It's terrible advice. You're gonna crash right away.
Right. Because you know where you at right after you start, right? That's exactly. You're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Or maybe I shouldn't talk while I fly, right?
Ah,
I, I know guys, but Chad and them and Steele and Schizo and um, Jeff Ortiz, all those guys, they uh, they put themselves in a position to be judged, and it was a pleasure to judge them on the criteria that was set forth for us because there was criterias, categories that we had to judge them on. It was a 10-point system. If you did absolutely everything that you were supposed to do, you could end up with 50 points per run. And if you flew flawless and didn't crash and didn't make mistakes, it was 50 points. If you didn't, then we deducted points. We based a lot of things on your skills and your determination. Because there was a little bit of that. You saw some guys come over the top of that 3-tier dive in, and you see them chicken out. Basically that's
they'll
what we
move
saw.
away.
Right. We saw them heading in that direction, and then they chicken out. Right. So we took off points for that because we know you chickened out. What I mean? All of us can fly. That was the thing about it. You were being judged by your peers. We can do these things too. So we have an idea how hard they were. That was part of being a judge, was to convey that to the audience, right?
Right.
That's when you hear me go, "Ooh, that was crazy," because that was crazy. I mean, that was something that was hard to do with that little momentum or heading in that direction. Like, you see, um, I went back and looked at the video. There's a video, the Schizo video, where if we ended the night there, he would have won.
Oh, no question. You know
You know,
what? He still should have won. To be
he, he,
honest with
you
you.
know, I, you know, if I kind of agree, but I have to say the rules
The rule says, yeah, I know.
says that he didn't win, you know,
Okay,
but he put the effort to change the flow of the night.
he did because like the first, I think it was the first four pilots. They were, I mean, they were good performances, but it was nothing special, right?
Right, right. It
Then you
was
saw Then you saw Schizo's performance, and everybody was like amazed. They were clapping in the middle of the
right,
performance.
right,
It was a completely different energy, you know,
right.
when he was
After that,
flying, and it's like everybody else behind him was like, I gotta step up my game.
yeah,
It's
I
like
saw a couple of guys choke. I
uh,
mean, choke. I was like, I was like, okay, like this. I'm not gonna say his name, but there was this one guy who who is like I consider is one of the best freestyle pilots out there. He just doesn't get the acclamations for it. You know, everybody know he's good, and but he for some reason it just always evades him. You know what I mean?
doesn't click with the audience. Yeah,
Right, right, right. Something happens, and Schizo pulled off that flight, and he came out like right after and just fudged the whole flight. And I was like, "What happened?" But he choked. You know, he saw what he had to go up against and choked. That's really what it was. You know, and
but you gotta
you
be
know,
honest though. The rules didn't like you know me. I'm actually the biggest proponent against the rules that they have. Now this is hindsight, right? This is hindsight, and
right,
I can
right.
say this now because I've experienced it. I had time to think about it. It was like, you know what? If I had to do it again, it's like I would have stopped the clock when they crashed. I would have
Mm-hmm.
let them fix their ship or get a new one because I wanted to see him fly. Because I wanted to see more Schizo flying. I'd rather see that than them turning a wrench trying to put out a new propeller.
Me too. I mean, you know, the main thing is a lot of these guys are still supporting themselves,
It's
right? I
true.
mean, they may be partially sponsored pilots, you know. I mean, you know, you get some motors and a flight controller and maybe a ship, maybe a company gives you a Vortex Pro, right?
All right.
Company gives you a Vortex Pro. Okay. And they want you to do a video once every 2 weeks, right? You got to produce a video. You got to produce the video, not you send them video footage and they produce it. You got to. So now you are not only a pilot and a recorder, a filmer, but now you're a production team, an
An editor.
advertising team, you know, all by yourself. And you're still supporting yourself because they didn't give you batteries with the Vortex. You know, they didn't give you a charger with the Vortex. They didn't give you a radio with the Vortex. They just gave you the Vortex. And the rest of it is up to you to get it in the air and utilize how you see fit.
Yep.
The
And there's time that you need to get used to it. Like every
right,
new quad, it's like it's behaves differently, flies differently, and you got to get
right.
used to it.
And
Huh?
you got to get it dialed in, you know. But what the reason why I was saying that was is that we had the issues,
The
the
issues.
the sad issues of I'm a 3D freestyle pilot and I only came to the 3D freestyle with one ship
Can't do that. Yeah.
and a whole bunch of parts when you should have came to the competition with two ships,
At
maybe
least.
three ships, maybe four ships. Maybe all you have to do is cycle through your radio. You know what I mean? You go drop, change model, select, boom, boot, grab another ship, plug the battery in, and you're in the air. But that takes preparation
Yep.
and it takes money. You know,
Takes
a
a
lot
lot
of
of
these
money.
guys don't have the time to sit at home and dial in four ships, you know, and get things set up. And four ships, you know, even if it's as cheap as $500 a ship, it's still $2,000.
Yep. No,
And
even $500 is a lot. You know.
right,
So
right, right. You know, so it's like, um, we're going to need more participation from the sponsors in the long run. But I think the sponsors are going to get their money's worth in the long run because their pilots are going to be able to run more consistent times, more consistent performances, and be more consistent and be more helpful to the company progressing through advertising or um, there's drone worlds coming up. There's going to be, I believe, 300 teams or 300 plus pilots or something like that. I can't understand. There's going to be a lot of pilots. There's going to be a lot of teams. There's going to be pilots we never heard of, but
And
they
some of them
have
are
to,
going to be good.
right. And you're going to have to be prepared. And
Right.
that's what's going to make the difference between the champ and the loser,
It's true. And
because it made a difference in
yeah,
the freestyle, and it made a difference in the Thunderdome. All of those things made a difference. It's coming to the party with more than one ship, ready to perform week after week after week, and it requires a lot more dedication than a lot of guys have been putting forth today.
yep. And this is something you and I discussed. It has to be the same ship too, right? Because it can't
Right,
perform differently if you break that ship and you put a new one on, but it's completely different and you
right,
haven't been flying it, it's still
right.
not going to help you.
Right. I mean, you might be able to hobble around the corner, you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
and make them keep up. You might be able to keep up, but you're not back in the ball game where you was before because your number one ship went down. It shouldn't be about a number one ship, right? It should be about that's your race criteria set up. I mean, when you go to big races, and you're like car races because I raced on the street for a while, but I hit some track stuff. And when your mechanic sets your car up to how you like your car set up, right? So, and if there's another car, that car is set up like yours too, so that things can be moved from one car to another with the least amount of work, right? And still be viable for the pilot or for the driver who has to drive them to feel comfortable in it, right? So that's what it's going to come down to is whether or not these companies let the pilots actually be the pilot that they're supposed to be or the driver. Um, a lot of horses get a lot of acclaim when they win a race, but a lot of those horses will never be the horse that they are without the jockey, right? They never run the fastest that without the jockey. They never cut the fastest. They never track the fastest. So it's the same thing. That's what I see in the future is that like the horse owners, they take care of the jockey. They press it's prestige in being a jockey. There's a prestige being in the driver of a Formula One car. Mario Andretti, one of my favorite drivers, um, was one of the greatest drivers to ever be on this planet, and but he had to be given the opportunity to drive, right?
Hmm.
He had to
That's
be
right.
given that opportunity, and he had to, and part of that opportunity is giving him all the tools that is necessary for him to be the best pilot that he can. And to do that, you gotta these companies are going to have to start supporting these pilots a lot better.
Yeah.
It's plain and simple, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, that goes on to another subject, which basically is it's like really for the companies to set up, they need to see the audience, right? Because that's what
Right,
they're waiting for. So it's one of those things where it's kind of the chicken and eggs. Like here's the product, where's the audience? We're waiting for the audience so that we can improve the product. And it's like, well, something's got to give first, right? So
right,
hopefully, really as people that are interested in growing this industry, we got to do the best we can to actually engage just common people, bring them in, and let them see all of the cool things. And a lot of it comes down to the pilots being very sociable and showing them
Right.
that it's like, hey, we're accepting of new people. We want people to come in. We want people to learn how to fly. So hopefully that trend keeps up, and then we'll actually see some big things in the future.
Right. I totally agree in that. I see a lot of pilots today snob new pilots. They got an attitude, or they're restrictive in trying to help. They know that they should be helping, but they'll say, I don't feel like it right now. It's not about, but somebody felt like it when you were there in that position. You know what I mean? That's what we need more of that. I feel part of the issues that we deal with today with the FAA and these rules and stuff like that were kind of the FPV guys was kind of pushed in a corner for a long time, right? I mean, first we had the helicopter guys saying that's not really a helicopter, get over there, right? And, don't come to our field, right? And then you got those other guys that were planker guys, the airplane guys, fixed wing guys, are saying, "Oh, that's a helicopter. Stay over there, or don't come over to our
I
field."
still get that. I still get that.
Right? So those guys now have to register just like we do. You know what I mean? And when I was going around preaching and saying that it's about unity, it's about the community working together. As we work together is when we show our most strength. And that's when we can dictate the most amount of stuff to allow us to continue to do what we were doing. But a lot of guys, the airplane guys, I don't want multi-rotors. Oh, the FPV guys, blah, 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 blah. They fly everywhere whenever they want, blah, 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 blah. That's because it's capable, right? But if you push us away from the designated areas to fly, then you put people in their neighborhoods, in their cities, in their towns, trying to get some flight time, just like these guys that go out to these airfields, and fly at their clubs. The reason why they go out there is so that they can get some airtime. What would they do if every place that has 50% planes, what would they do if there was no place for 50% planes to fly? How many people would be flying at the park?
Exactly.
How many people would be doing what we were doing before this regulation came along, still doing it? I flew Renegade for 3 years, no AMA. We only hit, there was 5 of us. We hit little open field farm fields and stuff. It was fun, but it was also, we never had a home. We never had a location to fly out of. We never felt it was always jump, fly, back in the car, and that's how we all flew. So, it got to be a pain in the butt, and we got with some clubs, and they allowed us to continue to fly. Some of us joined the clubs. Some of us don't belong to clubs and fly at all the clubs, but I feel that a lot of the issues that we're dealing with today is because we didn't unify like we should have.
It's true.
Power is in numbers.
Powers in numbers, and really, this is probably for another podcast, but which we can dedicate more time to this. But it's something that we're going to have to, unify and start, actually politically asking for, pushback on some of these rules. Otherwise, they're just going to get forced right through. But,
Right.
All right. Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Exactly. Let's get back on track. Was good conversation, but nothing about freestyle.
We went way over that. So
but
let's see. We were at Masters, right?
Yeah. So judging. Actually, you know what? It's funny because I didn't know you had a point system, a 50-point system specifically.
Yeah.
I know you had a point system, but like that really wasn't well conveyed. And one of the things that like we talked about offline was the fact that when you see flying, it doesn't matter any pilot, right? Some of the tricks that they did, like you saw it, but you didn't understand what you saw. and
Right.
and it's like, it's like for the common person that sees that, they don't really understand how difficult that was. And that's kind of one of the things that we're missing, that like the X Games have, in which they're really good at
Right.
conveying, hey, that was a really difficult trick, okay, you need to understand that. And we're
Slowed it down.
yeah. And,
Look at how hard the ship rotates on its axis, and I mean that's what the judges were there for. We were trying to convey that to the audience. And yeah, I mean we had 5 points. And I'll go through them real quick. Number one was smoothness, and you could get 1 through 10 points on each one of them. And number two was trick precision, and that included the flow and the management of the trick. Whether you went through this top section or the bottom section, doing a roll or a reverse yaw. Then it was use of control. Like, are you utilizing the whole course? That's what we were looking at. Was are you are you in the far right corner and the far left corner and way over here in the short right corner or whatever? The thing was, it was how much of the course did you utilize? And a lot of guys didn't use a lot of the course. They stuck in one area, or they stayed between 2 points. They never made it all the way around. And a few pilots covered the whole course. There was Schizo,
yeah.
Steele, Chad. That was pretty much it.
Well,
I mean, everybody else kind of like stayed in a section, or went from one section to the other section and just kind of veered through this, through the middle section. They went from here to here, but they didn't really do nothing in the middle. They did a lot more on the outside than the inside, and it just, so that's what that section was. Then number four was risk of danger. Did you chicken out? You know, we all know that people make mistakes while we're flying. I mean, some of the stuff, some people make mistakes while they're flying and make it look good. And then some people make mistakes and it don't look good and they crash, right? And sometimes I'm on both sides of that street, and just like everybody else. So we had the risk of danger, how hard it was to do those stunts. Like, I saw a couple of guys do rolls, two rolls down low, like less than 4 feet off the deck. They came through the obstacle course and whoop, 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 and then pulled up and then went over the top, like kind of did a rainbow, and then came back through and reversed it. Those things are risk of danger because you're close to the ground or you're close to another object, and it's easy to lose orientation and hit something.
it's true.
And then we had balance of flow. How creative are you? Did you take off like what and just did you just keep pounding out stuff, or did you start off nice and slow? Like Schizo kind of took off. I mean, and we talk about, I keep mentioning his name because really the kid pulled off the epic flight of the year while the camera was on.
Yep. Big stage, you gotta give him.
Big stage. I mean, he pulled off the epic flight of the year, and all the greats were there, and just went, what was that?
It's true. It was fun watching that as a spectator too.
Right. So, and then then whatever your total points was from those five, then we add them up, and then we go, okay, so you crashed, 1 point off or 1.5 points off, depending on one group said 1.5 points off, one group said 5 points off, right? And it was two groups voting, but when we came down to it, our scores were very, very close to almost exact, within 4 points of each other, So,
That's really good.
and that's pretty good, considering we came from it at different directions. You know what I mean? And still accomplished a great task. We did a really good job. When I went back and looked at everybody's scores and realized that even though we were on two separate sides of the table, we came to the almost exact same conclusion. When you looked at their scores, our scores, and you tile them up, the same person was at the top, the same person was at the bottom, the same person was in the middle, and maybe one or two guys was off in between, but pretty much ding, ding, ding was where it was at. And once we established the first, between the first and the third person, it was pretty easy. The first, second, and the third, it was pretty easy. And we did it. I think all the judges did a great job because it's hard. I got some nasty looks. I got a couple nasty looks. I heard somebody say something behind me. Big deal, whatever. You know what I mean? People get their feelings hurt. I mean, it's a personal thing when you're judging someone and they feel that it's a possibility that they could be misjudged, right? I didn't really make a mistake, and you did, I mean, we did our best job, I mean,
Hey,
no judge on that panel wanted to look like the one that picked on anybody. You know what I mean? We even when somebody said, "Oh, I'm not sure. What do you think?" We went and conversated about it back and forth. Like when we went just before we picked the winners, we went and we had a 10-minute talk about those people, the last four, right? And we talked about how well they did and what did it accomplish what it was supposed to accomplish, and we were very happy. We were disappointed in the fact that the true winner of the competition, the guy that should have won, didn't win. We were very unhappy about that too. We really wanted to give it to who we thought should have won, but the rules state, and there's a reason why there's rules. You just can't change the rules in the middle of
it's
the
true.
game, right?
Yep, you can't.
So that's the big issue, is that the rules stated that we had to follow this plan, and we couldn't give it to who
Well,
we wanted to because they showed we couldn't overwhelm the rules. We had to,
exactly, exactly.
so
So actually, that comes to one of our talking points is that I mean, this is just the first one of its of its career or of its event. So if you had something, I mean, what suggestions would you have to change that event to make it better? You've already heard mine, right? I really
yeah,
don't care about when somebody crashes. I want the time to stop. I want to see maximum flight time from every pilot.
I agree. That's the points you made out are valid points. There shouldn't, like uh, the thing about when you crash, you ran out, go grab your car. You know what that does to your system when you go run out to go grab your quad, you take off bolting. You come back, your hands, because your heart rate's going 480. You know what I mean? Because you run out there the hardest you can because the clock's ticking, right? So you're like, then you come back and you sit in this chair to take off, and your heart rate's is going like it was already going 480. Now it's like in the third gear, 625, right? And then you got to sit out in this chair and calm down and take off and fly again. That's almost impossible. But some people did it.
Yeah, that's true.
And those pilots have to applaud, you know. But nobody should have been running after a quad. No pilot should have had to remove himself from a chair to go get his quad. That's what I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is whoever's running to go get the quad should be the fastest individual in the building.
Yep. Or I mean,
Or that time, like you said, that time could just stop.
yeah. For me, what I would say is, and this goes back to preparation again, is that if you're going to go, if you want that title, okay, that's a awfully big title, Masters of
Yes,
Freestyle, right?
right. That's
You
a
should
big title.
you should come with 4 ships, and it's like as soon as you crash, that guy, all he does is unplug your ship, you plug in your next one, and then you go.
So
Because
so so really, I mean, you said that guy, really, if you come in for the freestyle and you're only going to compete for the freestyle, it shouldn't be just you, right?
yeah,
It should be you and your teammate or your team, your pit person, right? Your pit pilot or whatever, the guy who can entertain the customers and keep people at bay while you're flying, and or
yep,
whatever. You know what I mean? There's going to have to be like a tag team, I guess. I mean, when I used to race dirt bikes, you show up, you're the rider, and then you got your mechanic, right? Your mechanic is responsible for your ships. I mean, for your bikes, and making sure that your fuel mixture is right and all these other things. So maybe that's what we need. I mean, each pilot needs his pilot assistant, to make sure that all the other stuff is squared away. I don't know. That's going to be kind of like hard for a company to sponsor because things are starting off, But
yeah. Well,
really,
now
if we're looking at the future,
it might be that way, but I think it's just the event sponsor just has people to unplug. I mean, you just ask them, find that chip, unplug it, so you can have a good video, and then you can fly off on your next ship.
true that. You could do it. It's just I would think that you probably need somebody else to help you, right? I
Oh
mean,
yes, I'm just
yeah,
talking. I'm just thinking about costs right now. But
yeah. I hear you.
here,
I hear you.
here, this is my next suggestion, and this is the one that I think needs to happen the most. Regardless, if you change no rules about the Masters of Freestyle, I want to
Mm.
see a team freestyle event. I want to see the entire team up in the air to be able to choreograph something that you just can't see anywhere else except to be in that stadium, because you
So,
can't show that anywhere.
so you saying like, this could end up being an Olympic thing,
Hey,
I
no,
mean,
hey, do you know the Blue Angels? I'm talking about
right,
something
right.
like that. You know?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I would love to fly, chase a F-14 behind, a F-4 Phantom jet behind with a quad. That would be awesome, dude. That would be absolutely awesome. But the thing is that, you know, the 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 I don't lost my track.
I'm just saying that when you fly, I would love to see Team Lumineer face off with
Oh,
Team Ready Made RC or Team
that would be a
Voodoo,
hell of a team,
and
I would
and
say.
and then
Right now, those two teams that's the best team. That's the best talented team
exactly.
spread. Right.
So
That's
so
the best spread team.
so now
They
you
have all the skills. They can fly. They can fly wings. They can fly quads. A lot of those guys can fly helicopters, and they are plink guys. So it's like that is one of the fortified teams to beat right now. Team Lumineer, Ready Made RC. Um, um, and there's like two other teams out there that are making names for themselves, but none of them making their name like those two teams.
well, they also have deep pockets. That kind of helps.
Right. I mean, and really, a lot of this comes down to money, right? I mean, but like I can say this that one of the reasons why the time frame was with the Masters of Freestyle cut so short, and we had the time frame limit was because we had to leave the stadium. There was a football game that Sunday, right? So the Atlanta Falcons needed a stadium, and it takes 2 days for them to get set up. So, Friday night we were supposed to be out of there. And at midnight, we was out of there. We were running around, and lights was coming down. Click, click. You could hear them. And you didn't want to be in that building by yourself. And since they had that one instance once before, with the bombing threat, you didn't want to push your limit with those people, because they were very nice people and hospitable, but you're away from home, and all it takes is one phone call, and you're sitting somewhere where you need another phone call and a couple of other phone calls.
To
Next
get
thing
you
you know,
out.
your whole family is like, I don't know why Jimmy went there and got arrested. Yeah, you don't want to be in that position. So we did our best, and we cleaned up quickly, and put stuff away, and got things ready, and was out of there by midnight. But that was the real reason for the time frame. It was the fact that uh, we didn't have a lot of time left in the stadium. It was like nine something, right? It was like,
It was getting late, yeah.
yeah, it was like 9:30 when we finished, and any sooner those guys they would have had to pay more to be in the stadium, because it prolonged. Then
Yeah.
those guys would it. Those people are union people. I didn't know that too. That was another thing. Those
Oh,
those stadium workers are union people, so they they have rules, and they get paid a lot more when they go past their little time frames. You know what I mean?
gotcha. Yep.
So that was also a big issue. Just like we wanted people to fly around the flag, right?
Hmm.
Still flew around the flag. That was a beautiful
That
flight that
was.
did around the flag. But that's a $10,000 flag.
Oh, yeah. Don't hit that flag.
You
don't,
know what I mean?
don't hit that flag.
That's a $10,000 flag, and then you got to send somebody up there to get it, right? So
No, I don't want to be that guy. There's no
right,
way.
so it's like, yeah, okay, I get it, I get it. Don't hit that flag. Don't even go nowhere near it. You know what I mean? Because you don't want. And they said that. They said if you hit that flag, you will get billed for the replacement of the flag. I'm not, no, no, no. That's a nice flag. It looks good way up there. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
I flew close to it, but
Nope.
I'm not. No, no. You
That's car. That's like a car right there.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's my man. My wife would kill me. I come home talking about, babe, I made a mistake. I hit the flag.
It's 10 G's, man.
We gotta file. We gotta file bankruptcy. Yeah,
Let me see if the
yeah.
AMA will pay for that one.
Right. I hit a flag. Wow. So I mean, there's a lot of I think that we talked, me and you, we talked on the off camera for a little bit, and I like the fact that the in the stadium was a big area and great place to have a venue, but really when the pilots are racing, when we're racing FPV, the pilots need to be in the middle of the field, right? I mean, they should be in the center of the situation, not
Oh, yeah.
one end or the other. Every time we go to one of these events and the pilots are at one end or the other end, there's always some issue about reception or ground station. And I think just things would be so much easier if we just put the pilots smack dab in a tent in the middle, put a net around the tent, let the pilots fly from that point. And then it's the signal completely around them that they're dealing with, instead of the signal in one position, trying to make something happen in one area that's not really meant to be happening,
Exactly.
especially with aluminum arenas, like at Drone National, the soccer field was covered by aluminum benches. Those chairs, part steel, part aluminum, that at the stadium, um,
Exactly.
and there was 5.8 RF antennas pointing all over the place. I saw 5.8 helicals pointing down from the banners. So all those things play an effect when we have a video. But if we're in the middle, they minimize affecting us, right? They minimize the fact that causing issues with video.
Yeah, especially, like most people, what they complain about is having a dark area. So if you put yourself in the center, you minimize the chance of having a dark area, because that's how you crash, is that you fly into this corner and you're like, well, I'm just gonna hope for luck that I swing around and I'll get video on the other side and won't land somewhere.
Yeah, and I mean, like when I first got there, I flew on the 600 milliwatt transmitter, and then I flew on the 250. And the 600 gave me a lot of noise. The 250 wasn't as bad, but when we ended, when we first tried the 25s, they didn't work, because there was other stuff going on.
Exactly.
Until they turned it off. When they turned all of it off, that's when things got good in the stadium. I think we had like 7 people lined up at one time, running at one time, seven channels running at one time.
That's really good.
And then somebody did something, and then 2 channels was showing the same picture. Unfortunate for me, I was that guy that got that example. I was on 2 channels, took off. I'm like, wait a minute. The transmitter says channel 7, but I'm looking at myself on channel 5. I'm like, something is wrong. They're like, just fly it already. I was like, no, that's like telling me to stick my hand in the lion's den. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to have an issue, right? So
exactly.
So stuff happens, and we switched 2 transmitters. We ended up switching 3 transmitters, and then it finally cleared up, and we didn't have that problem. But more than likely, what it was somebody somewhere else
plugged in
and caused some kind of interference.
That's all it takes.
And that's all it took, And so, we each time we do this, we learn. There's guys that right now they're talking about what are you going to do when you get a video transmitter that changes channels, all the time, or power settings. What do we do after that? So there's a lot coming on, and a lot of things to be talked about, and a lot of things to be worked out.
Hopefully they all work it out. Video's always been the biggest thing. But getting back on track, so we kind of talked about the event itself and freestyle. Just really quickly want to talk to you about the pilots themselves. Obviously, we had some of the best pilots, probably just in the United States, right? Because there's plenty of talented pilots. Like Chad came from Australia,
right.
But most of them didn't travel over here, obviously, for it. So,
sure.
So the interesting thing to me, and I kind of just want your opinions on this, is that when I'm watching all of this freestyle stuff, you'll notice that like the top freestyle pilots have their own unique style. Like each one of them has kind of distinguished themselves into their own style. Like I'll give you an example. It's like, Schizo's really good at those slow, smooth motions. Chad's really good at controlling high rates, because like literally half the time I can't see what he's doing when it comes to flipping and stuff like that. And like Sharpoo, like his sweeps are very distinctive to me. Like if I watch a Sharpoo video, I can actually see like, specific things. So like, so for you as a judge, it's like, are you looking for stuff like that? It's like that pilot has his own distinctive style. He's actually making his own mark on like the freestyle in general.
Well, I knew that I was going to be a judge prior to about 2 or 3 weeks before the competition started. So what I did was I made a note to myself that I was going to every day for an hour sit down and watch videos from each pilot, you know. So like one day I would look at Chad's videos. The next day I looked at Steele's videos. The next day I looked at Jeff Ortigue's videos, and I just went through that process every day because I wanted to know what the pilot was capable of and to know when he made that mistake. You see, if you can sit and watch somebody fly today and you can go, oh, was that a mistake or did he do that on purpose? Because there's a couple of little things guys do on purpose. It's just to add their little flair to it, right? I
Right,
mean,
exactly.
yeah, so I wanted to be able to recognize each pilot from his flight characteristics, right? So the way he normally flies, I was like when like I was telling you about the one pilot that choked, I was looking for something, wham, slam, slam, click, click, bam, 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 kind of thing. And it was like, whoop, whoop, I was like, oh God, you're choking. I immediately knew, that this is not going to end good. I said that, to somebody. I said that to one of the judges. I said, this is not going to end good. And he crashed hard. And I was like, told you. He choked it. He choked it, And I mean, I choke. We
Yeah.
all choke, I mean, so it's just like, it it's hard, man. It's hard.
Well,
These guys,
it's a big stage. Plus,
yeah,
like don't get me wrong. Like some of those pilots, they're so synonymous with freestyle now that when they come to an event, everybody expects them to be like perfect. And that's tough. That's
yeah,
real tough because
you know,
whew, it's like that's pressure, man.
like I get that too. I get it. I understand. Um, so and so is a sponsored pilot, or so and so is that pilot, but so and so is just a human being. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So and so can get his feelings hurt. So and so can have his ego smacked around a little bit. Like I used to say a long time ago. I tell my son a whole bunch of times. I tell my son this. I said, you can change the outcome of a game by saying two or three things to somebody. Like, did your girlfriend wear that? Why did she wear that? Now you got him thinking about her, right? Failure is coming along, right? That says, so, the guy with the setup that you think is squared away and that he has no pressure on him. And there is pressure on him because if you throw him for a little loop like that, you can mess up his game, right? And I talked to a pilot about 3 months ago, and he was telling me that every time he goes to a certain race and somebody else is there, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I'm going to say that he says that every time that person is there, he knows it's about money and he can't finish the race.
Huh.
He crashes. It's something about him and that person psychologically, because it's only when that person, he made this distinction that only when that person is there that he has that issue.
It's pure pressure, man.
And that's
It's a
all
lot
it is.
of yeah.
You
It's a
know,
lot. But
and a lot of guys suffer. I mean, a lot of guys dealing with that on different levels. I mean, that it was a witness to that night. The Masters of Freestyle. It was Chad openly said that when after Schizo's flight, he knew he had to step up his game. I mean, he was like, I knew it. There was no other way. I had to push hard, push through.
yep.
So I think the pilots that competed in the freestyle are very talented and respected and brave pilots that put themselves on the line, and they'll do it again. And I would love to be part of the judging thing again in the future, um, because I recognize what it is that they're doing. That's one. Two, because I think um, we we as a sport is going to, the sooner we can mesh what the judges understand and the audience sees, the faster this thing is going to go.
Yep.
And it's not just about, I mean, not unless you're going to fill up a stadium with goggles, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I mean, if you're going to put 100,000 goggles in, and you rent goggles for $25 a night, and, there's 100,000 of them there, then that might be a great way to do it, but that's going to be expensive.
Oh yeah, there's going to be an investment. Believe it or not, in our league, we have a few pair of goggles that we just we send them out to people that are new, just so that they can get a feel for what it means to FPV. Because until you
Nice.
really see it, it's like your brain doesn't understand it, and then it's like, because it's totally different feeling, and it gives you a kind of like like, it's like, wow, this is actually really cool. But just kind of just wrapping this up, really, for just as something to say about judges, is that judges also really need to they need to evolve too. Or maybe
Right.
maybe not the judges, maybe it's the commentator slash judge, right? Because
Right.
we need to hear from the judges, so that as X pilot does something really cool, like he does a flip and he hangs there for a long time, it's like we need to, at that very moment, get commentary to say that's really hard.
Right.
Not a lot of people, in the world can actually do that, even though it looks very simple just to hover there upside down. You
Right, right,
know?
right. And I did my best. I mean, I tried to convey the difficulties of what was going on. I mean, you see some of the video, you can see I'm real animated about it, and uh, I I think that helped. I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm there, is to help intensify whatever's going on and convey that to the audience. And I believe I did that a very good job at that. I do believe.
Cool. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up this podcast. Believe it or not, this podcast is almost gonna be 2 hours long.
Jesus, every time we try to cut it short, it get longer and longer and longer.
Okay, so is there okay? So before we wrap this up, is there any place on the internet that people can find you if they want to come talk to you?
I'm on.
Only if you want to share, by the way.
I'm on. I'm on
Nope, got nothing.
Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram as Mr. Miyagi.
Twitter and
Um,
Instagram.
yeah, I'm on pretty much Facebook. Portland Multi Rotor Racing is organized Portland racing group I run here in the Northwest, and it's the premier group. So come out, check us out. If you're in Portland, if you're not in Portland, check us out. We'll be
Never know.
holding some big races soon. We're looking to bring some big names here to Portland and do some big things. It's just we right now it's that time of the year where it's water coming down, and a lot of the indoor, like we have an indoor place here in Portland now to race, but it's cold. There's no heat. It's a equestrian um, ring where they hold indoor equestrian stuff. If you didn't know, that's horses. Anyway, but it's not heated, So
Stuff. Yeah,
if
you
it's
can't
30
feel your
degrees,
fingers.
right? If it's 30 degrees outside, it's 30 degrees in there. You know what I mean? And you know, those things will change, right? Those things will change. The the heat is coming. The heat will be on. I promise you. If I hold a race in an indoor arena, there will be some heat
Cool.
because I don't like freezing to
Nope. All right.
death.
I'll definitely post your social media sites on the comments below on this video. And I think next we're gonna do our best to try to make this into a weekly podcast. You know,
Yeah.
if you have questions, just leave it down there. We'll try to get to them. But that's just it. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna
Have a good one.
all right, we're gonna end this recording right now.